Hello and welcome to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network, presented by Coors Light. Go from full-time to game time. Coors Light, made to chill. Make sure you find the Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe, and please rate and review our show. I'm your host, Wayne Malou. For segment one, I am joined by my two co-hosts, Blake Murphy, Alex Wong, as it is once again the time of the week where I wear this camo shirt, and we're here to talk. Well, first off, segment one, we're going to talk a lot of in-season tournament, talk about some Raptors news, et cetera, et cetera. Then we're going to get into potential trade talk with Michael Scotto. That's going to be very interesting to know sort of what the lay of the land looks like heading into rumor season. Then we're going to look more at the in-season tournament games tonight. The Lakers will be taking on the Suns. I'm sure I'll be catching up on that one after basketball. But, we're going to check in with Dan Woike for the Lakers perspective. And then finally, we're going to go around the NBA with Alex Wong leading the way. But Blake, how you doing?
There's different depths.
There's different depth to this show.
Blake, Will already messed up the rundown because that's not segment 4.
What is segment 4? Oh,
Alex had me prepare the latest nice noise.
All right,
although we
from the
can
record.
easily save that for Wednesday.
No,
as
How
well,
did
we don't
you
need to
mess
do
it
that.
up already,
We
man?
don't need to do that. What's going on?
The
there?
first time he reads the rundown out at the start of a show.
Man, what's going on?
So you're gonna miss Knicks Bucks. Your anticipation is you'll only catch up on Suns Lakers.
No, I'll watch Knicks Bucks.
Oh, okay.
But I, as always, the only thing that will make me miss watching NBA basketball is playing actual basketball.
Yeah.
So I'll be at my usual Tuesday pickup run.
You're not like Shams, man.
Tuesday's such a safe night. Like I think it's probably the safest night of the week to pick for a basketball run, right?
You would think so. I mean, this one's been going on since '95. I think it's actually maybe the oldest running.
Were you just like a toddler, like pushing the ball around
he
the
only
court?
got invited to this like a year ago.
Oh.
So why are you dispelling this? Anyways,
All right. What's going on?
what's
guys?
going on, O-Dogs? So let's talk Pacers, Celtics, and Blake. I feel like that Pacers win, that exciting 9-0 run at the end, Aaron Nesmith revenge game. But I guess we got to start with Tyrese Halliburton, man. He's the talk of the town right now, bro.
He is. So Pacers win that one by 10. It's on paper such a good test for this Pacers team because the Celtics cross match everywhere, defensive strategy wise, defensive personnel wise. They are the type of team that you think would be able to slow down the Pacers. And it looked that way for the first half. The second half of that game, though, Tyrese Halliburton gets going. He tears up what is alleged to be and what looks to me, when we've seen them at least, to be the best defensive backcourt in the NBA, and Derek White, Andrew Holiday. And yeah, I mean, Halliburton cruises in the second half. It's very, very tight until that final 9-0 run over the stretch of about a minute down the stretch. Tyrese Halliburton, I think, we can get into some of the stats too to contextualize just how good he's been. But Will, I'm curious to your take. Obviously, this was only the quarterfinals, but they said it last night. This was Tyrese Halliburton's first time in his career playing on TNT, which is not great for the Kings and the Pacers over the last couple of years. But when you look at that game, when you look at a potential in-season tournament semifinals, who's going to get those first bowling ball looking trophies for all tournament team, things like that, Tyrese Halliburton, potentially the biggest winner of the in-season tournament at the individual level so far?
I think so. I mean, this is definitely the Cinderella team that I'm hoping wins 2 more games. I guess that's kind of weird to say, but they really only win 2 more games. What's striking about watching him last night was first half, like you mentioned, was pretty quiet. And even in the second half, I felt like the Celtics guarded him pretty well. Like I don't remember so many like open shots where he's stepping into them or like layups where he's getting to the basket really easily. It's all like contested push floaters, like the pull-up jumpers. It's really impressive that despite being guarded by 2 of the very best perimeter defenders in Drew Holiday and Derek White, he was still able to go off in that fashion. There's this unpredictability about his game because he will pull from so deep. And I think, it's funny because I watch a lot of basketball, obviously, with the context of, we cover the Raptors and the Raptors are the team I watch the most. And I think about like Darko trying to come in here and bring in a new system of play and the intricate passing, the cutting off ball, the big-to-big passing, Dennis throwing, bounce passes between KD's legs for a dunk or, tight little over-the-shoulder passes to Jakob rolling to the hoop or Pascal posting up and everyone's got to be spaced out right on the weak side. It's like very intricate stuff, right? And of course, the Raptors ultimately at the end of it come out with like at best a league average offense with that process. Versus the Pacers, one of their go-to plays down the stretch is Buddy Hield's. So Tyrese is going to have the ball probably like 30 feet out, maybe a little bit more. And then Buddy Hield's just going to run towards him, ghost the screen, which is just he's going to pretend to set the screen.
Yeah, he taps the guy so that he thinks that there's a screen there.
And then he just runs out the way. In fact, I don't think I've actually seen Buddy Hield ever set this screen. He's just like running by, and just that little intersection of two players at 35 feet creates enough indecision where then Halliburton can just pull from 30 feet and make the 4-point play, which was ultimately the one yesterday. Like, offense is so simple for them versus so difficult for us. So, yeah, it just speaks to the difference in talent, of course.
For sure. And that play, they can throw an added wrinkle in there with Miles Turner, where if they do, horns double, or you can do a double drag screen in transition to get that quick, where, Hield is maybe going to be the first screener, and then he slips or pops, if you prefer, and then Turner is either rolling or setting the second screen. There's a lot of chaos that goes in there. Now, Boston's a team that, like we said, they're comfortable switching a lot of those actions and cross-matching anyway. They did some nice stuff yesterday against Miles Turner with, hey, Drew's going to take that switch if you need to, because Halliburton is the 9-1-1 coverage situation. And if that means Indiana ends up funneling the ball to Miles Turner and they can't get that scram switch out fast enough, well, Drew Holiday defending a big post up is enough. But all of those other advantages within the Pacers offense flow from what you have to do with Halliburton. And I think what you're getting at, Will, is like the biggest skill you have in basketball right now in terms of opening up space and manipulating defense is shooting. You can do all the passing you like, but if a team can go under every DHO, under every screen, if they can short close out to you so that you can't drive by because they don't respect what you're doing from the 3-point line, then all of that stuff, it's harder to, first of all, it's harder to gain advantages, but it's harder to do what the Raptors are trying to do, which is roll a small advantage into a slightly bigger one, because that process is predicated on, well, those teams are worried about you shooting. And what we see, not only does Indiana have a lot of shooting around the floor, but basketball geometrically has been like pretty solved east to west. We know what the corners are. Most players can shoot passably in a catch and shoot open situation from the corners, but Halliburton and Buddy Hield, Halliburton really opens up the floor vertically in a way that to this point we've really only seen like Steph, Dame, Kyrie kind of do. Sure, if Steve Nash came along now, he'd probably do that. Harden. But even Harden's are like a lot of step back oriented one where he's creating that space rather than, using what a defense gives him on like a 32-foot drop. And Halliburton is obviously this, it's a crazy stat. He is 100th percentile, so best in the league in assist percentage and points per shot attempt right now. Wow. The only player ever in league history to have a true shooting percentage as high as Tyrese Halliburton has on even 25% usage was Jokic last year.
Wow.
That's it. And a big part of this is the only player in the NBA shooting more pull-up threes than Halliburton is Luka. And Halliburton's hitting them at a 43% clip. So not only is he taking a higher volume of those deep pull-ups than anyone, he is hitting at a better clip than basically any high volume guy. The next closest would be like Jalen Brunson, who's hitting a little better, but takes only like 2/3 of the attempts. So what Halliburton is doing by having that pull-up shooting threat is, we've seen this for years with Steph Curry, where no matter how sophisticated your defense, no matter how willing you are to box and one or trap or whatever, when the floor is expanded that much vertically, that is just really, really difficult for a team that even like the Celtics might have the claim as best defense in the league.
Yeah, and I thought not having Porzingis actually was going to help them in a game like that last night because of the fact that you could be a little bit more mobile, more switchy, more pressed up on the perimeter, and even that didn't really matter. And I think the thing too with the Pacers, moving aside from Halliburton, who obviously is phenomenal, they just got a lot of guys who could step up and give them that extra bit of punch on offense. First quarter, I thought Bruce Brown came out super aggressive, looking to take pull-up jumpers, looking to go to the basket. And that was obviously their big offseason addition. They paid $22 a year for him, but who cares, honestly? Can he contribute? He can play? Yes, he can play. Down the stretch, in addition to Halliburton, it was Buddy Hield making that big three after that inbound. It was Aaron Nesmith, who kind of was an afterthought. He was kind of mocked a lot in Boston because wasn't a prospect that kind of went anywhere. I get it. But then he goes into the system, and all of a sudden he's playing super hard, super aggressive, plays bigger than his size.
Defensively.
really good defensively, and you could tell how motivated, not just by the in-season tournament, but going up against the Celtics, who discarded him. Miles Turner, throughout the course of the game, would just give them a pick and pop three here, a little hook shot here. I thought they probably looked for him a little bit too much. That's part of the reason why their offense is a little gummy. But the fact that you have a big who can kind of stretch but also play inside a little bit, that's tough. And then they just get little bits. I didn't even think Mathurin played particularly well. I think defensively he was so lost. But every time he gave him the bucket, it's just like, man, this team has so many weapons. And I guess it's not surprising from the league's best offense. But, it's just really impressive to do that against a really great defense in Boston. And Boston played well last night. I didn't think that, they were struggling. They weren't, airballing threes or anything like that. They played well. They just got beat by a team that played much better than them.
Yeah, they played, they didn't shoot the ball particularly well. They shot 29% on threes. But if Sam Hauser comes in off the bench and gives you 5 threes, I don't think
Hauser.
Yeah, I don't think you can really complain too much about what your bench gave you. I do wonder, though, Will, when you look at a game like this, and yes, there was no Porzingis, that takes away a little bit of your rim protection, certainly some of your when you look at the fact that the Pacers are nominally pretty small, and that's one of the challenges for them defensively, the fact that they basically, unless a Siakam type is just beating them down with post-ups, they don't really send two to the ball inside. No. Porzingis, if we lower the possessions total threshold because he's missed some time, is one of the only guys more effective in the post this year than Siakam.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum is another one right near the leaderboard, actually. So they did lose a little bit of that. But more than anything, I wonder, Will, if you look at what that Celtics rotation looked like, where they have to lean on Delano Banton for 11 minutes in that game. They have to play Luke Cornett, who was...
I thought played great.
He had a great first half. He was run off the floor pretty quickly in the second half. Right. Do you think even with Porzingis back, this Celtics team, and they're armed with some picks still, and they're equipped to make a move, think they're one rotation piece short a little bit still?
I think so. Yeah, it just feels like the Celtics don't touch the paint enough for me. I feel like they're talented enough to get to the paint. Jaylen Brown, I thought, made a great effort to get to the paint downhill all the time. Tatum, not as much. But yeah, I don't feel like they get into the paint nearly enough. Honestly, they would never really have the pieces to get a Siakam type. Well, I suppose they do have the pieces, but they wouldn't really make a trade like that. But even somebody like that who can really give them a little bit of balance of interior scoring, exterior scoring, this team could be really good. But I don't know. The Celtics, it's funny because I saw who was it? The Lakers guy on Twitter. I forget who his name was, but he was like, "Oh, this really did feel like a playoff game because Jason Tatum got outplayed by a better player." And the Celtics were eliminated in a must-win. You know what? I enjoyed the slander, but honestly, I think it was just the Pacers playing really great. Obviously, the crowd was awesome too. They were really into it. And my only thing about the game yesterday was just how many times the broadcast was like, "Isn't this great? It's the in-season tournament." And I'm like, they'll be going to a 3-star Michelin restaurant, and halfway through the meal, every time the waiter comes around, they're like, "Isn't the food great? Aren't you enjoying the food? It's a 3-star Michelin meal. Aren't you enjoying the food?" And I'm like, yo, just let me watch the game. I can see that it's great. So
heard, Chef.
It was a lot of overselling.
Alex, I believe you have a stat on the Celtics coming out of this in-season tournament game as well.
Yeah, double check this with Elias, but the Celtics now have 1 NBA title and 0 NBA cups since 1986. So once again, I just want to reaffirm my argument of can we stop talking about the Celtics as this incredible franchise?
They look like that every time they play the Raptors, unfortunately.
Well, many teams do. So
they are the first team to ever get eliminated in the knockout stage of the in-season tournament.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
That's history right there.
Are the lights again too bright for the Celtics, man?
It was funny though because I feel like the Pacers just played that well. I don't know. Were you guys surprised that the Pacers took it?
Not really. I have wondered, and had the Kings won last night, maybe this would have. Yeah. I made a joke I think to our pal James Herbert on Twitter that defense wins playoff championships, but offense maybe wins in-season tournament championships, and that is being a high-end offense like the Kings last year, who were one of the worst defensive teams ever to win that many games, but they were the best offense we've ever seen. That has a much better chance of working over 82 games when a team can't see it 7 times and sit down and scout for you. And one of the cool things about a one-and-done format like this is there is no adjustment and counter adjustment, right? You're only like, yes, maybe the Celtics will see the Pacers 3 times over the course of the season, but maybe they haven't seen them yet. Maybe the Pacers' next opponent hasn't seen them yet. Maybe you're just going off the one video scout and you don't know what it feels like defensively to try to defend that Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, Miles Turner 3-man action. And you don't know, hey, this is what we thought our first line of defense was against it. We need to revisit that. We need to go back to the drawing board and make an adjustment to that and force the Pacers to show you they can counter adjust. They can play a different way.
Isn't that coaching though?
But you don't get that. What I'm saying is you don't get the opportunity to do that like you do in a 7-game series where every game in a 7-game series, we could do a whole show on what changed. What did they do differently? What did they try? Here, you can make small adjustments as you go. You can make halftime adjustments. But a lot of coaches would, if they were being honest, would probably tell you they don't want to switch away from a strategy that quickly unless it's getting absolutely beat in, because sometimes guys are just going to make a shot and maybe you do need 8, 9, 10 possessions against that to see if it's really working and see if you guys can execute better. So I think this is a cool part of the one and done format where a team that really does just have like that top gear offensively might be able, or even a team that just does something differently, a team that just looks different, plays a little weird. Maybe that's something that in a one and done format, you just can't catch up with in time.
Yeah. And I think you guys talked about whether Halliburton is the biggest winner of the in-season tournament so far. The biggest loser has to be Joe Mazzulla.
Oh, yeah.
Because this man, we talked about this last week, like no one cared about getting into the knockout stage more than Joe Mazzulla. I think, he's pissed off a few coaches along the way. The Darko one wasn't an in-season tournament thing.
But
that was just a coach's challenge.
There was actually a Celtics reporter that asked Joe about it.
Yes.
And Joe's answer was essentially like, I'm not here to make friends.
Yeah, I actually have the quote here.
Okay, go ahead. What's the quote?
Gary Washburn was the one who asked, and basically about whether he wants good relationships with other coaches. And Joe Mazzulla said, quote, "How do I say this nicely? I don't care, but I also have respect for people. I learn from every coach. I think there are a lot of great coaches in the league. I've studied what other teams do, but as far as having an off-court relationship with a coach, I don't. That's like last on my list."
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think we discussed this when we talked about when he had intentionally hack-a-checked Drummond in the fourth quarter in a 26-point game against the Bulls.
Just in case.
And he had to go explain that to Billy Donovan, who has obviously been around multiple levels. And my answer then is kind of like what my answer is now. It's just I just don't think Joe is like he's just kind of a rude man. I guess I can't swear on air, but
he's not a people person.
He's definitely not a people person.
Yeah, you know who took notice though, I think? Shavano Buddy Hield, man. The 3 with no time left on the clock and the game over.
He did pull
Shot
up.
Clock off.
He pulled up right at the buzzer too.
0.1
Because he was standing in the corner.
Clock.
Because he was standing in the corner for a few seconds. The game was obviously done.
Plucks the ball from Tatum and then stands there and just before the buzzer gets that 3 off. Point differential even in a knockout game.
I want to know the gambling. I want to know the gambling implications of that 3. To be honest,
I don't
Do you think
imagine
it swung
would have.
anything?
No, because I mean,
Over
there's
under?
obviously some person out there who teased the line to whatever,
adjusted
but the line
spreads.
wouldn't have been as high as 7.5 Pacers. 234 seems maybe
too high.
You can just explain it to Joe Mazzulla that he's practicing buzzer beaters.
Yeah.
His team's moving on.
Joe
so he's
Mazzulla's
trying to
more.
build in-season tournament habits for future years.
Joe Mazzulla's made a lifetime enemy of DeMar DeRozan, and he got knocked out in the first round of the in-season tournament because of it. I think the other thing too is
Also, don't look up Joe Mazzulla's history.
Oh, okay. I think the other thing too is so they're going to be playing on Thursday, the Pacers, at 5 p.m. Eastern. It's 2 p.m. Pacific in Vegas.
Yeah, it's weird to play a game at 2 p.m., but okay.
Yeah, and this is my concern too of the final 2 rounds of the in-season tournament. Look at how amazing the crowd was in Indiana yesterday.
But they just got to travel. Here's the thing about the FA Cup.
But you're not going to get that. Like,
here's the
thing. You're not going to get that.
If you want to copy the FA Cup model, if you want to copy the Champions League model, your team has to travel. Cup. Where's the traveling cop? You know what I mean? Like that's what.
But you cannot replicate the home arena vibe. You just can't.
You can't. But I mean, at the same time, they're playing in a tournament, and like people travel for like NCAA tournament. You don't think Duke fans travel?
Yeah,
or Gonzaga
I just think
travel?
there'll be a bit of a letdown. I know the stakes are higher, but I think the crowd is.
You have half and half. like a combination plate.
What is this, man? Your French press.
You get two meats, a veggie, and a noodle.
You got the chicken shawarma with the beef shawarma.
We got the poo-poo platter,
and they're
man.
just fighting each other, and not like fighting each other, but like they're chanting against each other. That would actually be really unique.
Well, what do you think, Blake, about this crowd
I think
thing?
more realistically, like I think half and half is too optimistic. I
Okay,
think you're
sure.
probably going to get like maybe let's say you get a quarter and a quarter, and then half of that is going to be neutral, but they're going to get on the side of
they're just going to show up to the game in the NBA hat.
Yeah, or they're going to root for like the team that is more compelling, or is that like if the Pacers get there, I could absolutely see neutral fans getting behind the offense-oriented underdog team that's gotten there, right? However, I guess the one thing that would go counter to what I'm saying there is like the Lakers, if they make it, are easily the team that's going to travel the most. We've seen them. We've seen them fill Thomas and Mack for summer league games before when Brandon Ingram was a prospect or Lonzo Ball was a prospect. Yeah, like that's only what I think a 3-hour drive. LA to Vegas. So if the Lakers get in there, I think you're basically going to see a Lakers crowd. The interesting thing to me is that 2 p.m. start their time.
Yeah.
Are you just like 2 p.m. is not a time that exists in Las Vegas.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you're not at the tables yet. You're probably not even up from the night before yet in some cases. That's an honor. They might just have to like round people up from the like late stragglers at the casino.
Yeah, you might just be stumbling out of the MGM Grand breakfast buffet
if
on your way to watching Raptors Pistons at Summer League.
If you're going there to root for the Pacers and you're not a Pacers fan, you better have a 6-way parlay that you picked up at the Wynn Sportsbook.
Oh yeah,
that's
definitely a big part of why.
I feel like the majority of the audience there too is going to be a big gambling crowd. But listen, man,
but I challenge Pacers fans, like, and I guess Pelicans fans, like,
they're not gonna hear you.
Go support your team. It's so cool when you get to support your team on the road. Like watching the Raptors in 2019 when they finally wrapped, and all the Warriors fans are like left the Oracle Arena. There was like 3 full sections of Raptor fans, and I get it. That was the NBA Finals. But like that was cool. That was resilient.
Nav, Dr. Shank.
People chanting CBC because of the win. People chanting like.
I thought you meant Canadian-born Chinese.
Well, I thought that's what they're chanting towards me, but I was not Canadian-born.
Listen, I've been wrong about the NCAA tournament like the whole way, and it's been such a pleasant surprise. So I'm ready to be pleasantly surprised in Vegas as well. Another team going to Vegas is the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah, we've saved 3 whole minutes for them.
That's about as many minutes as they played on defense last night.
Pelicans.
Come on. The Pelicans.
Pels get the win over the Kings.
Big shots to the second unit, man. That's a deep team.
Yeah, so
Jose
maybe this is a conversation to tee up the next game because we went so long on this first one. But they went 10 deep last night, and that did not include Jordan Hawkins, who I know is a huge liability defensively, but has been a huge part of those bench units as a scorer.
Yeah.
They also still have Larry Nance injured, and Matt Ryan, who I know was a 2-way, but they signed him for shooting. Like, this is a team that I think could argue with the Knicks as the deepest bench in the league. Like, they don't have none of those pieces are as good as Emmanuel Quickly and maybe not Josh Hart, but you look guy for guy, like Trey Murphy III is
he's a guy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Dyson Daniels is a menace defensively.
Yeah,
I know he didn't factor in much last night. Jose Alvarado and like the Grand Theft Alvarado steal chasing a guy back in transition is like I don't know. This is a really good bench, and I know the inclination a lot of people have sometimes is consolidate a couple of those guys for a third star. I don't know who that guy is that fits well with Zion and Brandon Ingram, but man, do they have pieces.
OG Anunoby?
Telling me GTA 6 trailer dropped and then GTA
was
also dropping on the court.
Tap me out, man.
Yeah. No, seriously though, I agree. Like their second unit is really, really impressive. That really swung the game for them because the Kings came out like a house on fire. Keegan Murray was knocking down every 3 off the dribble. Feels like that's the only thing he really does, but still, the Kings definitely had a great amount of momentum. I think Wolfon had the stat. This is the most Wolfon stat ever.
Oh, God.
The Kings ran DHOs through DeBontis Sabonis for the first 4 possessions, and they scored like 11 points out of those.
Thanks for nothing, Wolf.
That's like when the Raptors run DHO through Precious Achiuwa for 4 straight possessions and somehow have 11 turnovers.
Jeez.
That's why they're not having a pizza party yet.
That's right. No pizza until
there's a reason why there's no pepperoni and cheese right now.
Get out the salami and cheese. No longer.
Quick one for you guys before we break and get to Scotto. Brandon Ingram had a really nice game last night. Nice mix of scoring and playmaking. He is leading the league in the amount of mid-range shots he takes, and he's almost at the league lead in shooting percentage on those mid-range shots. Does Ingram have, like, I know this is blasphemous when KD's still in the league,
No, go
but
ahead.
might Ingram have the like nicest mid-range package in the league?
Honestly,
he's a contender for sure.
He's a contender. I think one of the things working in Ingram's favor is he has probably better guys to both roll in JV and also just spacers maybe around him a little bit that allows him to get to the mid range a little bit better. But it's unguardable, man. That mid range shot is really sick. That was a shot that Stan Van Gundy said on the broadcast probably 28 times. That's a playoff shot. That's a playoff shot. He just kept saying it over and over again.
That's an IST knockout stage shot.
Didn't Stan Van Gundy coach on the Pelicans?
For
a year? That happened, right?
Yeah, not more than a year.
Okay, it was more than a year. Okay.
But like ultimately, like that is the shot that, is going to consistently get them that offense. I still think the Pelicans can there's other ways for them to get offense. I think Zion can probably get used a lot more than
he had 10 points
is.
last night. He was pretty invisible.
Zion
in the
needs to
first
be
half.
better, man. I think, clearly if Zion is can be an all NBA type player, then I'm ready to take the Pelicans seriously.
Yeah, sure.
But until he is,
the fact that they
I don't
even have
care.
that built-in upside of like Zion can take them there,
Yeah.
which is very possible because he is that level of player. That's dangerous. Plus, also, I love one quick moment for JV. JV, ever since he's come into ever since his second year in the league. His first year, he was actually quite quick and lithe. But from the second year until now,
Lethal weapon.
he's just the same guy. You give him in the post, and then he just muscles his way in for
Consistent,
that
man.
right hook.
He's like an OG there in the low
It's
post. Man.
unbelievable. He's rebounding. He's throwing the elbows up.
Yeah.
He's like doing this.
Yeah, Trey Lyles throwing a punch at him.
And he's
guys
also,
wanting to fight him because he's always so physical. I love that JV stayed the exact same.
Yeah, and like his stat
cool.
line has been the same forever. His paycheck has been the same forever. He's made
there's no
exactly
inflation on
$15
his
million
paycheck.
for like ever. And he's like really important to this team because one of the drawbacks of Zion not quite being, everything they expected yet is those Zion at center lineups are what on paper everyone thought would be the deadliest thing in basketball. But they are so untenable defensively that, last night aside because he fouls out, but like they're probably going to need to close with Jonas Valanciunas a lot because they haven't, like Cody Zeller's certainly not going to close as their center, and they don't really have the ability to go to Zion at the 5 right now. It's just too weak defensively.
Yeah, I think you can probably put Nance in as a defensive option.
When he's back, though.
When he's back, if you want to switch. But the thing with JV, too, is just like, the feet are also as slow as ever defensively. But I also enjoy him just like fighting DeMontis Sabonis like all night. It was just guys just like elbowing each other in the post.
No,
like
it was like a Street Fighter fight screen, man.
Basically, yeah. No,
By the way, JV, 1 year older than Otto Porter Jr.
No. Who is Otto older than, man? He's the youngest 30-year-old ever.
Is Otto a young G? Like, what's going on, man? Anyways.
Otto might come up in segment 4.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe segment 2. Who knows? Maybe Michael Scotto's got some Otto Porter Jr. Trade interest nuggets for us or something.
Otto might come up on this show later this week. So I'm just going to pause.
You know what's going to come up? A break, my brother.
Yeah, we're going to take this break. Been your host, Willow. You've been listening to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. When we come back, let's look at trade rumors, the spiciest thing on the internet. Welcome back to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, Win Liu. For segment 2, I'm joined by co-host Blake Murphy, who we were chatting about the greatness and the longevity of Rick Carlisle. And we will be joined on the line as well for segment 2 by Michael Scotto of the True Hoop podcast. Mike, you there?
Hey, what's up, fellas? How are you guys?
We are doing good. We are doing good. Blake, I think you have some Shohei banter.
Yeah, first, it's a Hoops Hype podcast. We got to send people to the right spot for Michael Scotto's work. Franz Wagner on the you said True Hoop.
Did I say True? My bad.
Franz
I'm so
Wagner
sorry.
on the pod this week. Michael, I got to ask, I know you're a Yankee fan, so before we do the basketball stuff, some buzz about Shohei potentially coming to the American League East, but it's to the Toronto Blue Jays. How would that make a Yankees fan feel?
I mean, I don't think we were ever really expecting him. We would have loved to have a guy like him, but I think for us more Juan Soto is our guy, and maybe if we can get one other pitcher, that'd be nice. But to me, Soto would be great for them. He's in his prime. He's in his mid-20s, and I would love that. But we've got some work to do. I feel like we wasted a Garrett Cole Cy Young season, and Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman, they've got something to prove this offseason. So hopefully they can do that, because right now they're in the crosshairs a little bit for some Yankee fans here in the States.
So some Yankee fans starting to lose their patience a little bit. Similar vibe around the Toronto Raptors, where maybe not as,
Nice
you know,
pivot.
it's
That's
certainly
nice.
not as, you know, there's not the level of Yankees exceptionalism where the expectation is World Series or bust every year.
Yeah.
But certainly some impatience setting in with the Raptors. Decision not to make a decision in terms of their path and their timeline. Michael, you had a great piece up at HoopsHype on November 29th that kind of did a roundup of who's the player to watch for each team. And you get to the Raptors segment, and it's like, well, they're the quote an exec used to you was the wild card team. And I feel like that's what they were last year.
Yeah.
That's what they were before. We can get into some of the player specifics, but the Raptors in general, are we headed for another February where they're a swing piece and there are a lot of teams around the league waiting to see what they're going to do?
Yeah, Blake, I think that the difference last year to this year is that Toronto has to make decisions. You've got Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby, two coveted guys around the league that are due for some pretty big pay raises. And also you can include Gary Trent as a guy that they have to make a decision on as well. I would say for them, they're definitely a wild card team in the sense that they're hovering around 500 at this point. And for Toronto, they've got a young asset in Scotty Barnes that they want to build around. They didn't want to include him in the Kevin Durant trade talks back when he was available. And they feel that he's going to be a core piece. Now, some executives around the league may debate whether he's, you know, a number one guy on a championship contender team. I don't think most people around the league believe that, but he's certainly a valued core piece and a guy that's played well this year. So for Toronto, you know, OG Anunoby fits more that timeline given his age, but he is going to have a lot of suitors, and him being unrestricted complicates things. An extension for him doesn't make sense based on the number he's at now because it's too low given where the market projects him to be. That's just business. That doesn't mean that he wouldn't necessarily return, just logical business. And then for Pascal Siakam, I mean, he's been in trade talks for a while now, and this is a guy that is an all-NBA caliber player when he's at his peak. So he's a little bit older, and, you know, given that they lost Fred VanVleet in free agency for nothing, you know, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what they do with Siakam. You know, previously, Toronto has lost some marquee players. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard, Kyle Lowry, and most recently, Fred VanVleet. The biggest thing with OG Anunoby is, will a team that has max cap space entering free agency in the summer of 2024 target him? You know, some executives wondered maybe he gets a short-term max deal, somewhat similar to Fred VanVleet. I think for Toronto, that's going to certainly be something that they're monitoring. And, you know, he's got a lot of trade value. Last year, this was a guy that I believe, according to reports, they passed on 3 first-round picks for him. And, you know, it wouldn't shock me. The Brooklyn Nets passed on 4 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, as I had reported on HoopsHype. So OG Anunoby potentially worth 3 last year wouldn't have shocked me. I think this year now, with him going into unrestricted free agency, that value would drop a little bit unless a team firmly believes that it can sign him long term. And one of the teams that I had mentioned in the piece that you referenced, Blake, was the Philadelphia 76ers, because they can create max cap space and go after him. However, this is just my opinion. If I was Philadelphia, I would be trying to trade for OG Anunoby so that way you can acquire his bird rights, and then also you have a better chance of keeping Tobias Harris as well and really fortifying one of the top starting 5s in the league if you were able to pull that off. But time will tell on that. There's a ways to go. But again, those guys, and along with Gary Trent, who was reportedly in the mix for an extension with Toronto, but that hasn't happened. And at this point, you know, Gary's a streaky shooter, guy that, you know, when he's hot, he's hot. When he's cold, it's like the Arctic. So
we know.
That's yeah. So I mean, Toronto's got a lot of potential moving parts. I just think the difference this year, Blake, is they have to make a decision compared to last year where they could have kicked the can down the road. You can't do that now.
Yeah. Okay. Lots of great details there. And I would love to follow up on a lot of that. On the Pascal Siakam front, I know there was links to Atlanta and you have reported here that the Hawks, quote, continue to monitor him as a trade target. The Hawks are also kind of at 500. You know, they could also, if they want to push in that direction, it would still make sense for them. What are you hearing on that front?
Well, for the Hawks, you know, they had just gotten a new deal done with DeJounte Murray. Obviously, they have Trae Young there. They're looking to win now. I think one of the things that's been interesting since over the summer to now and the start of the season, Jalen Johnson has played really well for them, and he's a guy that's in the most improved player of the year conversation. So for Atlanta, I think they have to make a decision. Is Jalen a guy that they can really continue to like build around? Is he a core piece? Or is he a guy that, you know, other teams would want in trade talks? I mean, he's a talented young player. So do they move him? It's a question they have to figure out. For a guy like Pascal Siakam, I mean, Masai Ujiri always drives a hard bargain. He's going to want the best assets on any team, even with him going into free agency in the summer as well. And on HoopsHype, he's currently our number 2 overall free agent going into the market. So, you know, I think for Atlanta, they're certainly going to monitor his situation. They're not only going to monitor him, they're looking to upgrade and get better. So I do look for them to be active and to try to be a buyer if they can at the trade deadline this year to improve their team going forward, especially after the new deal for DeJounte Murray.
Yeah. Well, the Pascal thing is interesting too because he is going into free agency, as you mentioned, and any team that would acquire him would want to know if he's going to re-sign in that market or if he has a strong interest in re-signing in that market, because that's the difference between a team paying a rental price versus paying an acquisition price. And I do think that that's a pretty key detail. And yeah, I don't know if Pascal will want to re-sign in Atlanta.
I mean, bird rights still go a long way, though. You can get the extra year at the end. You can get a little bit more money. The question, honestly, becomes, you know, is that team, as much as is Pascal willing to sign the extension after this or sign a new deal after the season, is whoever acquires him willing to pay him the max, or is that going to be a negotiation in free agency? So I could see that kind of going both ways.
Yeah, that's fair.
If you're a playoff caliber team and you're not going to have cap space, it absolutely, Blake, to your point, would be advantageous for that team to acquire his bird rights, and then you can go over the cap and keep a player his caliber.
Yeah. So, Michael, when it comes to the Raptors, one of the things that dictates this decision and where they're going is the level of play of Scotty Barnes. He's taken a big leap this year, rookie of the year, a bit of a plateau last year, at least statistically. This year, much improved offensively, significantly better defensively. When you talk to people around the league, because this could kind of go two ways. You could think, well, Scotty Barnes is good enough to help you win right now. Maybe the Raptors ride this out. I personally, you know, we're a couple years into this. We know what it looks like. The other thinking would be, well, Scotty Barnes could potentially be such a good piece. Everything the Raptors do should be about making sure the right group of players is around him when he's ready to kind of hit that peak. What is your sense from people around the league in terms of whether this Scotty Barnes jump is, you know, all the way legitimate and how that might inform what the Raptors are thinking here?
Well, when you talk to execs around the league, look, the jump that Scotty Barnes has made has been notable and taken into account by people around the league. You know, for some, they've been linked certainly Toronto to like Zach LaVine, for example, but I don't know if Zach LaVine is going to push them forward where they want to be ultimately. I think he's a good player and he would be an upgrade, but you know, I've gotten some inclination that Toronto would like to, if they could, get a star type of player. Now, I don't know if Zach is that guy. I think Zach is a really good player and at times is an all-star caliber player. But given the money and the new CBA agreement, looking ahead towards luxury tax and restrictions along those lines, I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze there. So in terms of Scotty Barnes and how he affects things, you know, Toronto certainly is pleased with his progress. Again, this is a guy that they didn't want to include in Kevin Durant trade talks for this reason. They thought that he can be a major core piece going forward. When I have spoken with executives, you know, rival executives wouldn't necessarily build around him as the number one guy on a championship caliber team, but he's certainly a piece that you can have on a team. So again, I think this ties into OG Anunoby because he's younger and more along the trajectory of Scotty in terms of age and the window that Toronto would have to compete. I think for Pascal, if you're going to keep Pascal as he's, going into the 30s range, you're going to want to go, assuming you sign him to a long-term deal, you're going to want to compete and try to win now and maximize the remainder of the prime of his career. So those are all variables they're weighing right now. And again, I think some people wondered when they re-signed Jakob Poeltl if that meant that they were looking to try to get better and acquire another star type of guy. Ultimately, I think he keeps things the same. He's a really good center and he's still young, so he's still got time if they wanted to extend their window a few more years. Really, to me, as much as you ask me about Scotty Barnes, I think they have to decide if Pascal Siakam is the guy that they want to kind of really be the focal point of this team for the next few years, or if they recalibrate that and go younger around Scotty Barnes and OG Anunoby and Jakob Poeltl, et cetera, to extend maybe a window for a few more years, given that they're all younger.
That does seem, the latter does seem a lot more likely. Can I just circle back quickly on Gary? What was the situation there? Because there was a report in the summer from Chris Haynes that he had opted in, but that the Raptors were looking to make an extension happen. Mm-hmm. What would that extension have looked like, and ultimately, why did it fall through?
Well, I mean, there was. I will say this. I can only speak to who I talked to.
For sure.
There were definitely conversations about an extension with Gary Trent Jr. And I had heard it would be somewhere around possibly $20 million now per year, annual per year. Now, I don't know if Gary wanted more or if Toronto kind of pulled back on that. I don't know. Mm-hmm. What I can tell you is that if something were to get done looking ahead, my educated reasoning would say to me that if something got done, it would be a short-term extension at this point.
Yeah.
And not something long-term. But I think right now, Gary's a guy that they've kind of been trying to figure out if he's going to be a core piece or not. And certainly, I think, fellas, you have to look at the selection of Grady Dick in the draft as a hedge that he could be a replacement for Gary down the line, and a less expensive one at that. Both can provide shooting, ideally when they're right. So, as far as Gary now, it almost makes you say, well, if the extension didn't get done then, given the way the season's gone, why would it now?
Yeah.
So, of the three, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, and Gary Trent, I think you could certainly make the case that Toronto would prioritize the other two guys ahead of Gary long term. And, TBD on Gary's future in Toronto.
So Gary Trent would not be, the most notable named move at the deadline unless it's quite a quiet deadline. This doesn't have to be Raptor specific. We're just zooming out to the NBA now. Michael, it's a little early. We're still 10 days out from a bunch of the league being even trade eligible. So forgive me for, a little early here asking you this. Who do you think is the biggest name that could be moved between now and the trade deadline?
Nah, that's okay, Blake. You're doing your job. I mean, we all do it every day. These are the conversations that we have, brother. I think, first off, the G League Showcase, I look at as much as anything as a marker, because that's where a lot of executives are going to be, and there's going to be – it's almost like the winter meetings. There's the winter meetings of baseball. Well, it's similar that to the NBA. You're starting to go back and forth on concepts and ideas. With that in mind, given everything and all the intel that's – at my disposal and around the league right now, I think the two biggest names that could get moved lie in Chicago, and it would be Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan, possibly both, depending on what direction Chicago goes. To me, when you look at where they are in the standings, and given that big three trio has not won without Lonzo Ball when he was healthy, they've got to make a change. And certainly Zach LaVine has been frustrated. DeMar DeRozan has clearly been frustrated. He's publicly alluded to it. Whereas Zach LaVine, it's been more about, reporting that hasn't been denied. make of that what you will. But I think in Chicago, they have two of the top names right now that could be moved. And I think that if you're looking for a quote unquote, I don't know if I'd call them a seller, but certainly a team that's going to make a move, you have to look at the Chicago Bulls right now. No question.
Yeah, that it would be. It would make a lot of sense given where they are and how the path forward or the path to bottoming out doesn't seem particularly strong either way. Without making a couple of moves here, Michael, that's on the potential seller side. Are there any teams that you think might catch the general public off guard by being a buyer, maybe ahead of what we would have thought the schedule was before last summer?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of executives have wondered if, Orlando, because of their hot start, or Oklahoma City would make a move. I wouldn't bank on Orlando right now, given their young core. They like their core. They want to see where it's going. I think they are realistic about their expectations. Certainly, they're pleasantly surprised with where they are right now. But the team that everyone is always monitoring, and I think around the league is feared, is the Oklahoma City Thunder, because they have significantly more assets to trade, whether it's young players, future draft capital, to make a move. And we've seen Sam Presti go after a guy like Paul George previously. So I think that's the dark horse buyer in the NBA right now, and a team that has the assets to get it done, whether it's young players or future draft capital.
Yeah. That would be scary if OKC made that kind of move. Hey, last thing I wanted to ask. So you had Franz Wagner on your podcast. What was the biggest takeaway for you in that conversation? Obviously that was on your podcast.
I did. Franz was a pleasure to talk with. I think the biggest thing that stand out I'd say three things stuck out to me briefly from that pod. One, he admitted that they have the belief now when they go into the arena that they're going to win each game. They didn't have that in the past. Wow. So this team believes in itself and believes they're for real. Number two, he specifically pointed out Coach Jamal Mosley as a guy that's been the driver of the culture change there. And certainly as coach of the month, I, for one, think he's certainly a coach of the year candidate, given the start of the season that they've had. Nobody expected them to be this good, this quickly. And, they had lost Wendell Carter and Markelle Fultz. These are two guys that were starting for them. The third thing that stuck out to me was going back to the summer when he played for Germany and they won the FIBA World Cup. For Franz, he basically, and I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially he said that was something that when he was young, he couldn't even have dreamt about as a young German, because it was so crazy of a thought given how little German basketball was impacted at that time. Sure, you had Dirk Nowitzki, but that was one guy. Now, his belief is that them winning the FIBA World Cup is going to affect future generations, and it really put them on the map. And I would certainly agree with that. I don't think a lot of people coming into the tournament, pegged them as the winners. They certainly were a formidable bunch with several NBA guys, including Dennis Schroeder, Daniel Tice, and his brother Mo Wagner. But those were the three main takeaways I had from Franz. And he's certainly a player that a lot of executives around the league think is going to be a really good player going forward. And for Orlando, he's a good core piece to build around.
That sounds like a great conversation. You can check that out on the Hoops Hype podcast. Michael Scotto, appreciate you.
You got it, fellas. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right. That was it was great to look ahead to trade season, because I know this is going to dominate a lot of our conversations. It'll be something we talk about time and time again. But yeah, Raptors, we're the wild card team once again.
Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know those dates we were speaking about, December 15th is the date. A lot of players can now be traded. January 15th for some players who were extended in the offseason. That G League showcase that Michael mentioned, which is an unofficial GM's meeting, December 19th to 22nd in Orlando. So we're not far off from trade season starting up.
There you go. Okay, we're going to take another break. I've been your host, Willow. You've been listening to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. When we come back, let's look more at the in-season tournament. Welcome back to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, Wim Lou. Continue to be joined by co-host Blake Murphy, and we are joined on the line by Dan Woike of the LA Times. Dan, are you in the minivan once again? I have to ask. No,
I am. I'm out of the house today. And by the way, that was a Hyundai sedan. Thank you very much.
I'm so sorry.
Brag. It's just very spacious.
It did look very
Ohtani
spacious.
Day, maybe, guys.
Maybe.
Seriously, maybe Ohtani Day. Very exciting.
That's right. Yeah.
Don't get me started, man. It's I'm biting my tongue all show about Ohtani stuff. I worked, a little bit in here and there, but I'm like, legitimately, this show would get scrapped and we're going to Ohtani talk.
That is the official PSA to all our live viewers. If there's any report of the Blue Jays officially signing Shohei Ohtani, this show will immediately go to break. And I will scramble out of here. Alex will scramble out of here. And it will be Blake breaking down the fact that Shohei Ohtani has landed in Toronto. So don't worry, live viewers. We will have all the breaking news. In the meantime, we got to talk about the in-season tournament.
Let's talk some tournament, guys. Do you guys have the fever up north? The IST fever?
I think we do, honestly. I mean, it's hard not to watch that game.
We did 20 minutes on the Pacers at the start of the show.
You
got the fever, man.
They deserve it. They the Indiana fever. No, seriously. That was an awesome game. I'm looking forward to what tonight holds as well. Obviously, you're pretty familiar with the Lakers side of things, and okay. So the Lakers are a bit of an older team, right? Because look, the Pacers, they can make the argument, well, we haven't really had playoff games. We haven't even had a TNT game. So we could really get up for this one. I do wonder on the flip side, for a veteran team like the Lakers, who last year went to the conference finals, and for, some of them are champions on their team. Obviously, LeBron has won 4, but what is the Lakers' sense of the in-season tournament and their excitement for this?
Guys, one of the things that I've found to be very rewarding through this process is the ties that bind us together as human beings on this planet, right?
Okay.
We breathe the same air, we pay the same taxes, we listen to the same music, we go see the same movies. It's one of the things that's always kept me from being ever starstruck. Turns out one of these ties, guys, is a desire for $500,000.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
The naked lust for that cash among the Lakers has been so refreshing and honest. It's the money is the answer. They all want the money.
Isn't LeBron essentially making $500K per game anyway? So
yeah, but it's $500K more, man.
I think I've learned about rich people is when they have a lot of money, the thing they like is getting more.
Okay.
And I think that is what it is, and it is wild. And I wish holistically, because you watch the competition right in these games, and you see, I think there was a rebound crash in Sacramento, New Orleans, where I was like, dude, that guy is going hard. Where it looked like a playoff type crash. And this is a little thing, nobody really noticed it, but for someone like me who sees a lot of NBA basketball, it stuck out. It was the turbo was stuck down for a little bit, right? And that's cool because those are young teams that are playing, Sacramento's never won an NBA title. You know what I mean? New Orleans has never won an NBA title. You win this, you can really celebrate it. A banner maybe even. Right?
Sure.
I would not be appalled if I saw a banner in one of those arenas. The Lakers don't have that necessarily. The Celtics don't have that, but dude, everybody loves the cash. And I think down the road, ideally, the prestige will follow. But for right now, the money's been good enough. I mean, the Lakers have played tremendous in-season tournament basketball. Now, the schedule has been very light too. So they were in a group with a Phoenix team that they beat Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant, but it was Beal's first or second game back. They played Portland without Scoot Henderson, Memphis without Ja. Utah was, had no guards. So they were able to run up that point differential almost to 100. But I think it was 74 or something like that is what it finished at. But they have played harder. And for a team that knows it will get judged basically by how it performs or if it reaches May and June, having this has been a nice little shot of adrenaline, cappuccino, whatever, triple Red Bull to the system for this basketball team. It got them a little energized. It worked.
Which is great. And look, last night the Pacers celebrating as they did as they went on that late 9-0 run. You tweeted, max effort basketball is a blast. Like it really is that simple, that you can't have your foot all the way down on the gas 82 games a year, 48 minutes a game, but you can do it twice a week for a couple weeks at the start of the season. So that's the excitement leading up to it. Dan, I don't mean this from like the ratings and things like that standpoint, but from there is a Lakers exceptionalism with the Lakers organization, the Lakers fan base, and there is, of course, the very legacy conscious LeBron James. If the Lakers were to win the in-season tournament, do you think that this level of excitement and care in the lead up to it, they're going to like retroactively act like this was a really important thing that they cared a ton about? Because now the Lakers and LeBron have won it, so obviously it's a really important thing.
It's an interesting question. It's one I've thought about, is sort of like, if the NBA script writers, not a real thing, but let's just pretend it is. If the NBA script writers like had their say, who would win this, right? Would it be a team like the Lakers, who, obviously tons of stars, LeBron would, would be all over his Instagram for days, pictures of him with the cup and stuff like that. If he won the MVP, it'd be, it'd be part of his legacy. I don't think it's like, I'd have a hard time imagining people like, sitting at a bar arguing about the greatest player of all time and being like, well, LeBron has won an in-season tournament. What has Jordan ever done in November? Like, that seems like a crazy thing to happen. But like, I do think like there will be, it does sort of add a layer of like, you gave me something to win and I went and won it, just like I've done everything else in this silly league that I play in. So there's that. But I do kind of wonder, like, it would be weird again for the Lakers to hang a banner next to a championship banner. It'd be weird to hang, to honor that in the same space where you honor Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Kobe Bryant and Elgin Baylor and Jerry West. Like, that doesn't feel quite right either. I've kind of wondered, would the league prefer it to be a team somewhere in the middle, right? Like a team that would like take this, that has the star power, but like would also like love it. Like, the Knicks are perfect, right? Like in that sense, like the Knicks win this thing. Like, they can celebrate it. They treat it like it's a big deal. The confetti falls. It doesn't look contrived or anything like that. And then, the Knicks haven't won a lot in the last 30 years, so they can celebrate it. Now, I don't think we're not talking like parades or anything like that, right? Like, that's not what this is. But it should be something like before the next home game or something like that. You honor it and you treat it like a big deal. Because I do think like, while like I've sort of like joked about it and I joked about it with you guys, like I've enjoyed kind of like how just like materialistic like the push has been for this. Like ideally, like for this to like really, really catch, like the players have to want it for more than the paycheck. Like it has to be something that means something to you and it means something to your season. It doesn't define it in the same way a championship does, but like in the same way, division titles used to matter. We go into these NBA buildings occasionally and you'll see the division title banner.
Here.
Like that's not, yeah, okay, great example. Yeah, right. And that's not like to say that you should honor to some degree that accomplishment. It's a real accomplishment. 82 games, you have the best team in the division. Divisions don't matter anymore, but like you can honor these things. And I think anything that moves away from like this absolute binary kind of concept of success and failure in the NBA, where either you win a championship or you stink, is good for everybody.
Yeah, I do agree with that, because it's just it really leaves 29 losers at the end of every year. And I just feel like sustainably for fans, like you have to have something more to cheer for than just a championship. And that doesn't take away the importance of a championship. That's obviously what everyone's playing towards, but we can appreciate that kind of nuance and we can celebrate things and it'd be fun. And also, I was thinking too about like how annoying it must be to be LeBron and walk through everything. And it's like, no matter what I do, this is for my legacy. Like,
and right now, Adam Silver is massaging your calf to make sure that you can play tonight because he's questionable.
He's going to play.
He's not that guys. He's not that questionable.
Yeah. So he's going to play.
I would think, yeah.
But it's like everything you do is for your legacy. Everything you do has to be compared to like literally Michael Jordan. It'll be like, well, what you did in Vegas was cool, but Michael Jordan also went to Vegas in the middle of a season to save Dennis Rodman. So, it's not as cool as that.
It's funny writing about him writing about him is strange in that way too, in the sense like, one, like virtually everything's been written about him, right?
Yes.
And like, if you're gonna criticize him, I feel like sort of like you criticize him, you have to put in the scope like, yes, this is not going well, but he's at worst the second best player of all time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So like,
exactly.
it's like they are wild standards always, right? And he's in that way, he is very tough to cover. But I think like he is though, if nothing, he's like very aware of the moment, right? Like now, whether you say that's contrived or any of that stuff, like it's probably a little bit of everything. But like, you know, I mean, LeBron James wants to own a basketball team, right? He wants to own it in Las Vegas. Like, I would think that there is some sort of legacy value to him. So one day when, you know, that Las Vegas, I don't know what are we calling them, the clubs or something like that, some horrible name.
Las Vegas
When
clubs.
that-
That's not good. That's terrible. Sorry.
Guys, only took one marketing class in college. Only one. Whatever we're naming it, right? Like the Aces is such a good name.
The Ace is
Like
perfect.
that's
yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great name. So I don't know what
Maybe
they're going to do.
Spades. Spades sounds cool. I don't know.
All right, we got to work on some different.
All right,
maybe
fine,
the
fine.
suits. Maybe the suits. The Las
suits.
Vegas suits.
Okay.
So, anyways, they play. I think there'd be some value to being like, you know, this is like the place where LeBron won another championship. Like that just seems to me like, as somebody who likes having these things in his story, like sure. So I mean, he's plenty motivated. Now look, there's a very good basketball team standing in front of them tonight. There will be a very good one if they win in Las Vegas, and probably a really good one for them in the finals if they were able to get there. But I think that's kind of what's fun about this whole thing, right? Like I can kind of talk myself into being excited about any outcome over these next few days. And that the fact that I like last night I was doing TV in LA and I was in the studio and they had the Monday Night Football game was on in the background. And I kind of was like, dude, but the tournament, like, where's the tournament?
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, I would never in any circumstance feel that way. Like I did an interview in LA earlier today with the local NPR station. And the host asked me, he's a big Lakers fan. He asked me, he's like, why is the NBA doing this? And I was like, Larry, it's because the only time you ever have me on NPR to talk about the Lakers is in the playoffs and at the start of the season. Like it's worked. You've been seduced by this. And I think it's something we're going to get used to. We're going to get a lot of it. And I'm looking forward to it. My colleague Jorge Castillo today wrote a really good story in the LA Times about, should baseball try this? Sure. Hockey too. Let's try to figure out ways to eventize these sports that play these marathon seasons. It's good for everybody. It's good for the media who gets exhausted. It's good for the players who drown in the monotony of it. It's good for the fans because it tells them it's not just one thing. You've got a lot of stuff. It's really been, I think, a very successful start.
So, Dan, this time last year, LeBron and Anthony Davis were playing with, I don't know, the Vegas team would be called the Las Vegas 2-7 offsuit as far as the supporting cast goes. They had to make a lot of moves at the deadline to make that eventual playoff push.
Brunsons.
Yeah. Shout out to Doyle, not Jalen. And then, you know, this year they're ahead of where they were last year, unquestionably. There are still some areas they're going to need to address. They've got a couple guys, you know, probable or potentially out for tonight, like Gabe Vincent, Rui, Jared Vanderbilt. So it hasn't been perfectly smooth, but it's been better. When it comes to these Lakers role players, we know they're going to be looking to upgrade at the deadline because they always do. Which of the supporting cast outside of LeBron, AD, and D'Angelo Russell has kind of most solidified themselves for you in terms of, you could trust them in a rotation night to night? They're guys that the Lakers are going to ride with.
Well, I mean, they really believe in Austin Reeves, right? Like, and he's had kind of an up and down start to this season, a little dead legged out of Team USA, but I think he showed in Team USA, right? That like, this is a guy that, especially at that deal at his age, he's a win now player on a very, very team friendly deal, around $15 million a year. Like, I think I have a hard time believing that they would part with him in a trade for, you know, somebody who's as polarizing as say like a Zach LaVine or something like that. Like that seems like a non-starter for me. But like, you know, you mentioned D'Angelo Russell, like he's a name that always comes up in these things. His contract seemed like it was made in a way to be like, hey, this is tradable. But he's played, you know, statistically pretty well.
Yeah.
You know, I think somebody sent me something last night where that comped his numbers to CJ McCollum's this year. And like, they're very similar, right? Now, is that playoff winning? I don't know. And maybe they look to like reorganize a little bit like that. But yeah, I mean, like it'll be some version, some combination. If they make some sort of move, it'll be some combination of D'Angelo Russell, Torian Prince, Gabe Vincent. Will be very hard to move because of his injury. He hasn't played yet this year, or played very little this year. I'm sorry. And then Rui Hachimura, some version of these players, but like these guys all make sense on the Lakers too, and they still don't really even know what this team looks like. Jared Vanderbilt tonight will play his second game of the season. And he's a guy who started for them, gives them a lot of what they've missed early. The record is good-ish. Watching it every night has been some variation of good-ish to kind of meh. Like it feels like maybe they need to do something. But it's still so early in this year, and I think the most important thing for this team is to keep LeBron James and Anthony Davis as healthy as possible. And if you go into a series with those two guys, even with the supporting cast they have right now, they'll have a reasonable chance against almost anyone.
Yeah, LeBron is the minutes are down. Like they're not under 30 or whatever Darvin Ham kind of said coming into the season, but
that lasted less than 30 minutes. That minutes limit, by the way, it was like the fastest.
Yeah,
I've never seen a plan abandoned so quickly.
I'm not gonna make it about Toronto. Never mind. What was I gonna ask about? So when I'm watching Laker games, and I'm always a little bit surprised by what Cam Reddish is giving them this season, how much he's being used. And then I go online. And then I go online and I just constantly see Lakers fans being like, why is Cam Reddish in? It's the new fourth quarter crypto. I got my tool in, wondering why Batum's in. Like, this is Cam Reddish for the Lakers on the other side of crypto. So how's his season been? Because, he was obviously a hugely highly touted prospect along with Zion, along with RJ Barrett coming out of Duke. But it just hasn't really clicked for him. But maybe here in the Lakers?
I think one of the hardest things to do in sports, guys, is like trying to figure out, like, if you're not going to be the guy that you were in high school or the guy that you were in college, like, how can you win? How can you become like a useful professional NBA player? Particularly if you're one of those tippy top guys like Cam Reddish was, one of the best players in his class, rated higher than Zion Williamson going to Duke. And obviously, like, nobody would even put them in the same world right now in terms of like their station in the NBA. I think what Cam has done is like he's embraced a very simple role, like go guard the best dude.
Yeah,
like we think you are athletic enough and a smart enough best player that we can put you on the best perimeter player. Like my guess is tonight, if he's in the starting lineup, it'll be Devin Booker. Like go guard Devin Booker and make it work. And he has been active. Like, I mean, he's been getting like Prigioni steals.
Nice.
Like where he hides in the backcourt and stuff like that. Like,
I thought that was a Marcelo Fuertes steal. That's one of my favorite plays of him as a Laker.
I always give it to Prigioni just because I do love Prigioni. But yes. I mean, Jose Alvarado, master of this, the sneaky art as well. But like, I think like those guys, like he's done stuff like that. There's been minutes where he's gotten a little outside of his lane. Bad quick threes, stuff like that. But like, look, if he's a guy who's willing to take open corner threes, hit a huge one this season after missing a huge one, to take open corner threes, to work on defense, like there's always minutes for those kinds of guys. He's huge. Like you see him, like he looks like an NBA wing, and he's been one of their best offseason acquisitions. Like there's no question, like their offseason got a lot of praise, I think, and like through 20 games, it's been pretty mixed results.
Yeah.
I mean, Torian Prince has been fine, somewhere between fine and a little underwhelming, starting to play a little bit better right now. Gabe Vincent has not played, really, and then Christian Wood has struggled to find his footing. Jackson Hayes has been kind of in and out of the rotation. Cam Reddish has been kind of the steal. And the Lakers have this sort of track record over recent years where they've been able to get these guys, like these like kind of reclamation type players, and put them into roles and help them redefine their careers. I mean, we all watched one last night in Sacramento. Malik Monk is a guy who took a minimum deal to play for the Lakers and really a lost season 2 years ago for them, the first Westbrook year. And I watched Malik last night, and it's just like, that's a confident player who knows what his job is in the NBA.
Yeah.
And I think when I see Cam Reddish now, I see a player who's learning what his job is in the NBA. Now the trick is, once he gets good at this, one, can he tune in a little bit on the other stuff, or will he be satisfied? And I don't even say that in a bad way. Like, will he embrace the job that he has and just focus all his energy on doing that? If he does that, he could be a really successful role player.
Yeah, that's it's a great story because I think this affects so many young players coming to the league. They're so successful. Everybody is the man coming out of high school for the most part, and it's like, okay, how do you grow from that? Because like you get to the point, you get into the real world, like LeBron's the man. Guess what? LeBron is the man. Okay, so who are you
Yeah.
going to be? How are you going to get minutes? What role are you going to play? How are you going to convince the coach to play you, to notice you? How are you going to get your next contract? It's like you just get thrown into the deep end, and I think that I don't know. I guess it's like not too dissimilar from like even the average person coming out of like school when you're young. You have these high expectations, and then you got to live in the real world. And I'm
Well,
happy for
there-
Cam that he
there's
found a
this-
spot.
Yeah, there's the secondary part of that too, which is like when you do have some success and like time kind of moves on from you, like can you adjust again? Then
Right.
on sort of the backside of your career. I mean, like Vince Carter did it as well as anyone
He did. Yeah.
in this league. But like, I mean, I've had a lot of conversations with Christian Wood about this. I mean, this is a guy who's had the biggest usage cut in the NBA, and he's trying to go from a guy who scored kind of empty points and empty calories to like a guy who is now looking at box score plus minuses to judge his nights. And that's tough. It screws with your head. I mean, this is a guy who has derived all of his value in the NBA about putting a ball in the basket, right? Now, if you play 5 good minutes and win 3 50-50 balls, you know what I mean? Like that's what the Lakers need from you. This is your new job. It's really challenging, and it's I think for veteran players, for young players, it's one of my favorite things to watch when we cover teams and watch these things and being close to seeing how these guys shake out, because the talent in this league is the talent, right? Like the tippy top guys are always going to have homes everywhere. But like for that middle big chunk of the league, right? 75% of the league, situation, opportunity, and how you embrace it. And like that's the puzzle of putting together these teams, especially when you're a team like the Lakers that's so pot committed at the top end of your rosters. Can you find these guys that are willing, and can you mold them into things? And that's why I think it's still a little foolish and a little reckless for some people to be talking about trades and stuff like that. Is like we're like 20 games into the molding, like we're just getting it started. So where is it from here? When they know for sure that this is not something Christian Wood can do, or this is not something Rui Hachimura can do, or it is. And then once they figure that stuff out, then you go fix the rest of it.
And Christian Wood, he's a great example. This is his 8th team over 9 years, and he was lighting up the G League for years. And it took all of that. And this is as an undrafted guy out of UNLV. Now imagine trying to do that when you're Cam Reddish, you were the number 10 pick. You went to Duke and were part of this huge trio of guys. The mental aspect of that, the ego aspect of that, and then also like fundamentally prioritizing different parts of your skill set. Cam Reddish, I don't remember the Duke defensive tape that well on a team with Zion and RJ Barrett. I'm sure he was guarding guys, but that team did not need to guard crazy hard probably with Zion and RJ. So it's a completely different thing now. Last one before we let you go, Dan. It is the Suns tonight. The Lakers have beat them twice this year, but they are yet to see Devin Booker. Booker has kind of taken this big step forward as a playmaker. He's 5th in the league in assists per game. What do you make of the matchup?
I mean, I think this feels like a year where Devin Booker's going to scratch that MVP conversation if Phoenix, moves in the direction that I think it will. I'm a big believer in Frank Vogel and that staff. I mean, I've seen it firsthand with the Lakers, what he's been able to do with talent and stuff like that. And, they've really missed their 4th quarter organization. And like, that's going to be Devin Booker. Like, just like it is. That's going to be the guy they play through late in games. For a big stretch in this season, especially 2 games against the Lakers, like they were a better team for 3 quarters. The Lakers get to the 4th quarter, LeBron James is fresh, and they just kind of run through the tape. I think this is gonna be a really hard game for the Lakers. I just think that Phoenix to me is a team that is like finding itself. They play with tremendous energy. They crash the glass. Like guys like Josh Okogie like drive the Lakers crazy because they're just so athletic and stuff like that. But on the other hand, the Lakers have been one of the best home teams in the NBA this season. They've really kind of carved an identity there. They're getting whole. Jared Vanderbilt does matter to this team. Rui Hachimura does matter to this team. I mean, this seems like it has a chance, guys, to be one of the top 4, in-season tournament quarterfinal games of all time. Like I'm confident.
Oh yeah,
saying that it will be an all-time in-season tournament quarterfinal game. But I think it'll fit the script of these games that have been really competitive, tight into the fourth quarter, physical. That's the thing for me. I'll watch for this game. Can Anthony Davis, get to the line? Can Anthony Davis kind of feast against a team that doesn't have great rim protection? If the answer is yes, probably a Lakers win. Yeah. If the answer is no, if he's around 17, it's going to be up. It's going to be uphill. Someone else is going to D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, one of those guys is going to have to go off.
Yeah. Also, I can't believe we've gone this far without saying it. It's going to be LeBron versus KD in a must-win. We've never seen that before.
I know, right?
And that's so awesome. So I'm excited to watch this. Dan, appreciate you, and we'll call you again soon when we need to talk about the Lakers. All right,
guys. Good luck on the Ohtani front. Happy holiday season. We'll talk soon.
There you go. Next time, by the way, when he comes on, I gotta ask him about these 4 Lakers, because I opened up the Lakers roster and genuinely, I was very confused by these inputs.
You trying to talk to Moy Fudge?
I'm talking, yeah, Alex Fudge. Yeah. Alex Fudge is one of their players. Yeah, Alex, tap in if you need to.
Demoy Hodge and Alex Fudge. This is how excited I am about these guys. I'm mixing all their names up.
Alex Fudge, Colin Castleton. Who is Colin Castleton? We need to know. Played in Michigan, so that's that's not insignificant. But what? Demoy Hodge, as you mentioned. And then Maxwell Lewis. I mean, Maxwell Lewis I knew, but the other ones I was genuinely like, what? These players are real people on the Lakers. So
weird tick that I have, so ever since grade 12, I've read every single NBA box score of a game that's happened. I have some
Wait, what?
But you hover over
Oh wow.
But you hover over a guy's name and you see these guys pop up sometimes that played 1 minute a game or are active but don't play. The early season hovering over every name to make sure I have everyone down, it's Jalen Pickett, not Jamorko Pickett from the other year.
Yeah, right.
It's Demoy Hodge, and Alex Fudge, not Demoy Fudge.
Fudge sounds so good. That sounds like something Homer Simpson would have said. Sorry.
But Demoy Hodge is one of my favorite guys to click on because he went to 3 different colleges. So he has this fascinating basketball reference page where he went to Missouri, he went to Cleveland State, and he went to State College of Florida, Manatee, Sarasota.
No way. Why do they call
real
only,
name?
only
No
in Florida
gimmicks.
when they call a college that?
Yeah, that's obviously not a D1 school. He managed to fight his way to Cleveland State and then Missouri. But yeah, he's got a real fascinating real GM and basketball reference page.
Yeah, once again, Alex Fudge, Colin Castleton, and Demoy Hodge. All 3 of you come on the pod at some point because we just want to know who you are. But we're going to take our last break. I've been your host, Willow. You've been listening to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Welcome back to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, Wim Lou, continuing to be joined by co-host Blake Murphy, and we are joined for the final segment by producer and co-host Alex Wong, who was unable to tap in for Alex Fudge, Colin Castleton, and D''Moi Hodge, Demoy?
Alex Fudge is when I land a Haagen-Dazs deal, man.
That's when you attend a Raptors PR press conference
that's
in the summertime for Darko Rakovic.
That's what I was trying to tap in 7 times to tell you guys.
Wow.
I did confirm during the break that it's Demoy.
Demoy.
Oh, okay.
Demoy or Demoy.
Demoy
The
is so
French.
Yeah.
That would go hard.
Yeah.
No, I love that, man. I had a chance to say what up to Carlo at the University of Toronto today. He was the one that
What's up, Carlo?
Huge help organizing the prehistoric book launch event. Actually, I got a text from Mike Malone just now saying he received his prehistoric books.
Okay,
Woj. Because his dad, Wong's
What more do you want to flex, man?
Because his dad, obviously, rest in peace, Brendan, was part of the book, and Mike had talked to me
Big
about
part
it.
of the
So
book.
I'm excited to see Mike Malone. I checked the schedule. He's going to be here. The Nuggets are here on the 20th.
Well, now that you're the producer, I mean, maybe you flex those into an opportunity for Mr. Malone.
Wow, I didn't even think about that for the show. That's how selfish I am.
I'm just I'm content brained.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Let's try. I mean, let's not say it's easy because I said that about
It's
Utah.
doable. It's doable.
I said that about Utah Watanabe 3 years ago.
No, Utah's the one person that we can't get on the show. We can get Adam Silver. We can't get Utah.
Yeah.
Can't
Anyway,
get
shouts
Rondo.
to Carlo at UFT. He let me know that this Thursday, this week, December 7th at 6 p.m., Donovan Bailey, Canadian legend Donovan Bailey, is having a book launch event himself
Oh, wow, okay.
for his new book, Undisputed, at the Goldring Center at U of T, hosted by Kayla Gray of the Other Network.
Yep.
So if you want, tickets are available at uft.me/undisputed, or just Google Donovan Bailey U of T Undisputed, and proceeds from all the tickets are going to go to the same place I donated my book event money to, the University of Toronto's Indigenous and Black Student Athlete Athletic Bursary.
That's awesome.
So there we go.
What a legend, man.
Just wanted to, yeah, Donovan Bailey is a legend, man.
Yeah.
You remember when he beat Michael Johnson at the Sky Dome in the 150?
That's Des Moines odds to me, buddy. Sorry,
you looking like Alex Fudge right now.
I was in China.
But Blake is our Las Vegas insider, apparently. Is there breaking news coming from the Sin City?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to use the term breaking news on a day we might get a Shohei Ohtani decision, but it's something I think NBA relevant, because I'm honestly, now that I hear the news, I'm surprised the NBA didn't do this first. The NHL is going to host the draft this year at the Sphere.
Okay.
In Las Vegas.
That's
obviously,
James Dolan owned, by the way.
Oh, so maybe the NBA doesn't have the option.
Do you think Azotam's banned from the Sphere?
Yes.
Okay.
He's definitely under surveillance.
It's actually part of the U2 contract that he just can't go to any U2 concert ever, whether it's at the Sphere or not. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I hadn't thought of the James Dolan part of it. I'm just a little surprised that the NBA didn't do this first, like a big Vegas thing, because, of course, the NBA is all over Vegas with everything except an actual team.
The NBA is so thirsty for Vegas. It's actually pretty funny. Because didn't they try an all-star? They did an all-star weekend there once, right?
Yeah.
And then kind of just never went back, I guess.
Well, it's funny because I always thought
2007, and it was the first thing that comes up is that it was a disastrous weekend, is a quote. There are a bunch of articles about it not being a very a great weekend. and you know, that's obviously a prior era of the league. And I wonder if, you know, I mean, certainly a lot of things have changed in 16 years, but like the league's appetite to be there and their trust that, you know, as an everyday thing versus a once a year thing would be handled a little better than maybe they thought it would have in 2007. It's also a big change in leadership since then.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Yeah. I feel like the NBA has like always been sort of in this market, but then like since then they've been surpassed by so many other sports. Like, you know, the Aces have established pretty much a dynasty over there, and you know, the Golden Knights have gone there and they've really succeeded as well. So, you know, like the NFL has moved in that direction.
Yeah,
so
the Raiders are there.
NBA is really slow on. They end up being the last ones in.
Yeah, and I mean, the
baseball teams are moving.
Yeah,
too,
John
right?
Fisher is in the process of stealing the Oakland A's and then gaslighting them into saying it's the fans' fault for not showing up to watch the lowest payroll team and an historically bad team. So it's going to be, if things stay on schedule with the Las Vegas baseball team, the NBA will actually be the last North American major sports league to get into Las Vegas on a permanent basis. So because they're behind the 8 ball, let's get it started here for them. What do we name in this Vegas team? They can get the marketing side going already, since they can't get, you know, the arena and the actual team. We can at least get them a name.
Yeah, we've been given 5 minutes to come up with 5 names of this potential new Las Vegas NBA team. So
if you guys
I want to clarify that this is just on 5 minutes of prep, I promise.
This is how chaotic the show is behind the scenes for people that want that BTS. So, Will, I believe you've prepped 4 in the 5 minutes you were allotted. So
I've got 4, and I'm thinking
let's
about
hear
the
these
5th.
duds. Let's hear these duds.
I've already got the Las Vegas Spades. I think this one actually does sound kind of nice.
Damn, that's actually kind of good. I can't even hate.
That's the one I suggested to Dan Woike as well.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Is that going on the board? Is that going in the trash?
There's already the Aces is the thing, and it kind of similar to that. It's like still referencing the cards.
Now, if they were those two teams were to have a relationship,
right?
And then there was some, you know, like
an Ace of Spades.
Like the Timberwolves, the Iowa Wolves, the Minnesota Lynx. Like all of those have a city tie-in that way around
a K9 dynasty.
Yeah.
Sorry, there is. That's what it is.
So you'd have to lean into that, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a 5 out of 10 for me.
Okay. That's 5. Okay, well, these ones are going to get worse and worse. Do you have one, Alex? You said you preferred 5, or do you want me to present my 4?
Present yours, because mine are actually
all
good.
right. They get progressively worse. The Las Vegas High Rollers.
You're so direct. Why don't you just call them the Las Vegas Gambling Commission?
No, you don't like the High Rollers?
Actually, you know what? I'm hating on you too much. I actually like that one.
You like the High Rollers?
Yeah, I give that a pair of kings. Yeah.
They get worse.
Okay.
The Las Vegas Dams.
What?
Nah.
What does that even mean?
It's the dam there, the Hoover Dam.
Oh no, man. Okay,
It's
next.
the miracle. They were able to control.
Once
and
again,
divert the Colorado River.
never put Will under pressure for content.
Okay,
needs a
fine.
day.
Las Vegas Royals.
Yeah, but the Royals already taken,
Yeah.
Kansas City Royals.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
It's crickets for these
Yeah.
ones.
Well, I think I'm crickets on
Why
Royal.
did you make me do this, man?
I think I'm
Humble
crickets
you.
on Royals because one of mine was the Las Vegas flush, which is a
Oh,
high
see?
poker hand, and flush is obviously another term for a dunk. So you get the basketball connection there. It's not a. It's
What
not
are they, the flushers?
the flush. Just
They're
singular.
just the flush.
I think my brother Blake's in the lead right now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Also,
All right.
with high rollers, you couldn't do this because of the connotation, but rounders to me would be because of the movie, and it's a better term for
I like that. I think the
a
better
workman like poker player.
All right, fine. Let me work hard for this fifth one. But you guys
work
present
hard.
some of
Work
your
hard.
ideas.
I think the alternate
Please.
thing you guys should consider is like what the mascot's going to be.
Mm.
Yeah,
Because I
okay.
think there's a really cool mascot idea in here too, right? Like
Yeah.
something gambling related. I'd be down. Okay, I've got the Las Vegas pit bosses.
There you go.
No, man. The Las Vegas bosses does sound kind of nice.
Just
So
the bosses?
Take out Pitt.
The mascot is just Andy Garcia from Ocean's 11.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. The Las Vegas wise
You
guys.
think you can break into my vault?
Las
Okay.
Vegas wise
Take
guys.
tests?
I'm messing with the wise guys.
Funny
actually.
how? Funny to you how?
I'm actually messing with the wise guys. And my last one was just the Las Vegas hedge. Like
These are
hedging your
worse than
bets.
mine. These are worse than mine.
They're about equal.
These are worse than mine.
I think Blake's
this-
the flush is in the lead
This
right
is
now.
you couldn't do this because all the gambling tie-ins and stuff. But if you were the Las Vegas house and your team's tagline was "the house always wins,"
I like
you
that
could
one too.
you could do
I
something.
love
with
how
that.
we're like, we can't do this. Meanwhile, it's like we
Yeah.
have gambling, like, on this program and also on every program right now.
I mean, I think you can do this. I think it's just a whether or not like it'll sound anything good. My fifth one is Las Vegas dealers. You guys like the dealers?
No, man, why are you so basic?
No.
Okay,
You
Las
would-
Vegas chips.
I think you would need to specify card dealers.
Oh my god, man! Why are you so bad at this one
the Las
specific
Vegas
thing?
Sorry,
deadbeats,
man.
the Las Vegas degenerates.
The degenerates would be
ooh.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, the degenerates are coming back. They're down 6.
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
The degenerates are still in it.
Yeah, it's
the whole
Triple
point of
H
being a
starting
degenerate,
point guard.
Yo, the jerseys would be amazing too.
Yeah, honestly.
Anyways,
Right.
pivoting now
That's
to
right.
a more important topic. Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani has not signed yet to everybody
Okay, hold on.
that's tuning in.
Blake, because obviously you're more tapped into baseball than either of us. Obviously, you host Jays Talk Plus. What is the latest update? Because it seems like he's gone to potentially visit the Blue Jays, like AAA squad or single A squad, whatever
Practice
one it is.
facility.
Yeah, they have what they call it a high performance center. But
Okay.
basically, a couple years ago, they poured like $100 million in to redo their facilities in Dunedin, so that like Vlad is spending most of the offseason this year in Dunedin, not back
Okay.
home in Dominican
Yeah.
Republic.
Not getting picked off at second in a playoff game.
Yeah,
type?
you're gonna work on that.
checking.
Goodness. Why
And
would
like
you have to
guys will
say
do
that?
the rehab there, and they have like what they call the pitching lab with all
Yeah.
the biomechanics stuff, and they basically just made it really state of the art.
Okay, cool.
And that seems like something every team would do, but not every team has done that yet. It's one area they potentially have a competitive advantage over, say, the Dodgers, who share a spring training facility still with the Chicago White Sox. So
It's a broke franchise.
yeah, it's even though they have all this money, and look, with something like this, it's going to come down to money for some of it, because like that's
Yeah.
table stakes, right? Like you gotta put the $500 million to sit down. And then what we're talking about,
That's the buy-in. Damn.
yeah. So I mean, he might leave like a little bit of money on the table for the right situation and stuff, but he's not gonna leave like $100 million on the table.
I think the Jays would have to have the highest offer to begin, to even have the conversation, I feel like.
yeah, or very, very close to it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the same offer. You can do some luxury tax stuff with the team being owned by telecom
Yeah.
conglomerate, because you could, hey, here's an immediate endorsement deal that MLB would look at a little closely. But no, so from the sounds of it, it's down to a handful of teams. Dave Roberts, the manager of the Dodgers, said, "Yeah, we met with them a couple days ago." The Jays are not admitting it, but people have tracked the Jets like they did with Kawhi. People
Okay.
have tracked, hey, Ross Atkins and John Schneider, the general manager and manager of the Blue Jays, were not in Nashville for the start of the winter meetings. They were mysteriously at an undisclosed location, and that just happens to line up with when Ohtani.
We need to explain that part.
This is Kawhi Watch.
We need to explain that part to Will, because Ross Atkins was supposed to meet with the media yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
in
imagine
person.
we roll up the summer league.
Yeah.
And we have a scrum scheduled with Masai.
Yeah.
And then, or I guess this would be Bobby, not Masai.
Sure.
So, and then the Raptors cancel it. They don't tell us why.
Mm-hmm.
We Zoom with Bobby instead, and he's just got a plain white background. You can't tell where he is at all.
He purposely made sure it was a white
and he
background.
won't tell you where he is or why.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the speculation was he was either maybe in Los Angeles meeting with them, or maybe they were touring the facilities in Dunedin.
Yeah,
Who knows what
So
it
the
was.
belief is Shohei has been taking meetings in LA over the last little bit, so teams would have gone to him and pitched and stuff like that. But this was allegedly, or reading the tea leaves, hey, he wanted to see what this is all about. And you don't, it doesn't mean he's favoring you, but it means he's at least
serious
considering
enough to be thinking about
This
it.
is great. So you're telling me the Blue Jays are essentially on Kawhi Watch right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like,
now I
even
understand. Okay, so
this-
there's like a shopper's bag involved.
Yeah.
Kawhi's
No, it's
gone
officially
to,
on.
Has he gone to like Niagara Falls, the equivalent there of Kawhi going to Niagara Falls?
Not quite, but we do have the Norman Powell, which is Yusei Kikuchi, grew up in rural Japan, and they went to the same high school, wore the same number. Shohei, culturally, the seniority thing is a much bigger factor there than maybe we consider it here. So, Kikuchi being the first that has gone on and then gone Japan to major leagues, and major leagues on the West Coast, then to Toronto, and had some
Alex
success.
from workplace to work.
Yeah.
This is more than just when they were like, Gravis Vasquez is gonna get us Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Like there's a real
Okay.
connection.
Let's respect Yusei Kikuchi a little bit. Right?
No, I respect
Yusei.
Yusei.
He's not a Gravis Vasquez.
Got this
Now,
dinner
none
set
of
up,
this is
AK.
to say the Blue Jays are going to get him. I think
No.
most people would probably say the Dodgers would still be the favorite, but maybe at this point you say the field has a better chance than just the Dodgers. The Dodgers are less than 50-50. My personal level is that I've talked to our bosses about like, hey, what happens if he signs in the middle of the show? Like, I'm at least scenario planning that the Jays could get Shohei
you're
here
gonna bust in like
over the next couple of days. Yeah,
if I'm
gonna faint, and then once you guys revive me, I'll be ready to go on a Jay show.
You're gonna break in through the set like the Kool-Aid man, and just kick Kipper and Bourne out of here.
I think the backdrop has to immediately change. Like the
There
Raptors
is no
show,
Jays Talk Plus logo though.
but just put Shohei Ohtani's face up there like a million times.
Yeah.
I'll be heading to the Jays shop to get a discounted Shohei Ohtani jersey.
Double check there. I think it might be under renovations right now.
Okay.
Double check that they're open.
And I don't know where you'll be going once Ohtani signs. So I gotta.
My life will be the same. We'll be covering the Raptors.
Do you guys think Ohtani's gonna tour One Mount Pleasant as part of
Why not?
his discovery?
Why not? We're technically coworkers.
Do you think
at that point.
Ohtani's turning on doing like Rogers, like recon, and is like, ooh, 2 Asian guys on TV, 2 to 4 p.m.
This is
Dodgers
why-
don't have that.
Here's the thing. This is such a they always
The Dodgers actually,
Yeah, go ahead.
do have, I believe, the only Japanese American play-by-play person in
Damn
baseball.
it.
It's in Steven Nelson. So
Damn it.
I do
all
think
right.
they have that.
Get Kikuchi on the line. I want to book Kikuchi for this week, man.
Here's the thing. You know how people like have this like online conspiracy of like anybody owned by Rogers is like any Raptors talking point is now like directly from up top. Like it's somehow that
I've
they
seen
ca-
you.
they
I've seen
care
you.
about to
I've
that
seen you
degree.
directly receive payment to say nice things about Fred VanVleet. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, that's right. It was cash payment for sure.
I've seen
No,
those.
seriously. It's this is like this conspiracy theory or this joke that gets passed along. This is the part where I'm like, you know what? I will do what it takes for Rogers. You know, I will talk to Yuta Watanabe,
Yeah.
Shohei's very good friend.
Mm.
Like they're actually friends. And
Yeah.
I went to him when I was like, in the interview that we were going to do, I was going to ask you to pitch him to sign in Toronto,
Yeah.
which would be
But you know what?
I'm trying to do my part.
You
is
didn't
what I'm
get
trying
any
to
of
say.
these things done. Is all
Look,
I'm saying.
the biggest
Okay, fine.
the biggest wrestling star in Japan was also like in a Blue Jays jersey this summer when there was a big event
There
here
you go.
and was a fan of Kikuchi. So Kazuchika Okada could be helping us make, hey, I went
No,
to a
this
Jays
is-
game. I really dug it. I
Yeah.
like the city.
This is really
I've got
Kawhi
my
Watch,
jersey
man.
ready to go.
No.
This is how insane Kawhi Watch sounded, man. People were looking up where his kids were signed up.
CP
for
or what's the station?
CP24, yeah.
CP24. Yeah, like they
CP24.
were
We're
like
tracking his
like
foot.
a hat. Yeah.
Was Lindsey Dunn driving a helicopter? Or that's a different channel?
So there's one other thing to
That's
come
a
out
different
of
channel.
the winter
Oh, my
meetings
bad, my
today
bad, my bad.
that I would like Alex's opinion on.
Yeah, what's
Okay,
up?
go ahead.
Don't ask Will, yeah.
Toronto Blue Jays. Well, Will doesn't know. He hasn't been there.
Yeah.
Toronto Blue Jays manager John Schneider 43 years old at this point.
4 years older than me.
Yeah, okay, so he's a little bit older than us, but and he's always had this a little bit going on, but he mostly wears a hat. Full faux hawk at the winter meetings.
Yeah.
Alex, is that the green light for you to bring it back next haircut?
For people that don't know,
That's a 43.
for people that don't know, I had a faux hawk during the 2019
Alex and I have
championship
both
run.
had faux hawks probably later into our lives than we should have.
2019, I would be 35 years old. Pre-therapy, pre-sorting through my issues,
Men will get a faux hawk instead of going to therapy.
pre-Theo-Melodone. I'm down with the faux hawk, man. But like, I did get a few comments from people when like I would pop up on a video, with a faux hawk in 2019, being like, "Yo, bro, like you can't be rocking a faux hawk no more. We know you're in your 30s." And I took that to heart. But I've always, if I ever reveal my hair again daily, it'll be with a faux hawk, because the faux hawk is the look, man. So maybe we should do something. You know how Darko is like win 3 games, get pizza. If the Raps win 7 in a row this year, I'll get a faux hawk.
Okay.
How about that? How
like
about that?
Let's do it.
You want to get you guys a little excited?
Oh, you're really trying to motivate the team now, huh?
I really want a faux hawk, but in a way where it's like, oh, I didn't choose it. So.
Because a pizza party is whatever.
Okay, so let's do the levels here. Okay, they win 3, it's a pizza party.
Yeah, and you know what? We should get Dennis to come on the show to give you the faux hawk too. Let him come in to cut your hair, man.
All right, let's all put something on the line, man. If they win 5 in a row, Blake, what is the craziest? Like, can we get you a face tattoo?
No,
what if the Raps win 15 in a row this season?
Look, I already have a championship commemorative tattoo, and it's a little cartoon moose head that you can't really
I see, yeah.
from my Moose Notes. And that was similar to this. Someone was like, "Oh, if they win the championship, you have to get your moose drawing tattooed." I was like, "Sure. If the Toronto Raptors win the championship, I'll do it." So I'm not doing it for a 5-game win streak on the way to 41 wins.
Okay, let's do this. If they win 7 in a row, are you down to both go faux hawk?
No,
you're not down.
I could do it pretty.
Because you can grow it back.
I could
easily.
I could also probably just like spike this and like style it that way.
But you'd have to get a more intentional faux hawk.
Yeah.
Are you down for a faux hawk, my brother?
No.
7's too low, but they're not going to win 7 in a row this year. But it's still.
I have a head like a Lego figure, man. When have you seen a Lego figure with a faux hawk?
You have to do something too if they win 7 in a row.
I don't know.
What if Will goes 7 shows without his camouflage sweater? What are we doing then?
I would
I'm not even giving this up. Not even for a Lent.
I would prefer he just do that anyways. But like, you have to eat a hat on air or something, man.
Why do I eat a hat? This is so extreme.
No, but come on, 7 in a row.
7 in a row.
You need the people to get excited.
You know what? I'll buy the radio team lunch. That's as far as I'm gonna go. You're getting your own pizza party at that point.
That's ridiculous, man.
I'm sorry, but I'm not getting a faux hawk for a 7-game win streak, man. I've seen the Raptors win a championship within the last 5 years.
Anyways,
we gotta have standards.
Yeah.
2 minutes here. So
is that all we got?
Yeah.
We talk basketball in the last segment?
We did it, man. Back to Ohtani.
Sure.
Since he could become a Rodgers employee, what if they came to you, Will, and they were like, "Yo, we just need a little bit more money to cross the finish line here, Will. Are you willing to take a 50% pay cut to acquire Ohtani? Would you do it?"
This is how you're filling the last 2 minutes of the show?
It's literally on the rundown.
You know what? Honestly, what you
willing to give up, man?
For all the goodwill, if that gets here's the thing: if that gets publicized,
you would literally be known as Goodwill Lou.
Yeah, you know what? I'm happy to do that.
But you need it publicized.
I need it publicized.
This actually happened with the Blue Jays once before. Allegedly, the Jays players were trying to chip in to get Irvin Santana back before the 2015 come up.
My favorite guitarist.
We did it, guys.
I'm trying my very best.
We've learned today that we can just do segment 4 without any rundown.
I'm enjoying all the banter.
That's friend of the program,
play that again.
Adam Silver. Let me hear that again, Derek.
I'm enjoying all the banter.
Yo, he sounds like he's AI, man.
Anytime someone complains about us not talking about basketball for 5 minutes, that's the reply.
Adam Silver, thank you, man. All right, that does it for us today. Thankfully, I've been your host, Will Lee. You've been listening to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Make sure you find The Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe. And please rate and review the show. Thanks once again to Mike Scotto, Dan Woike, producer and co-host Alex Wong, Blake Murphy, board producers Derek Braindale, James Wilson, David Sis, Jared Manitide. We'll talk to you tomorrow.